Hey YouTube, today we're going to be replacing the brakes on this 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's a WJ model, and we're going to be replacing the brakes on all four corners. Each corner, I guess, a new rotor, new caliper, new hose, new pads, and we're going to bleed each corner with this hydraulic or pneumatic brake bleeder. So let's get to it. We're going to start from the passenger side rear and then move our way over to the driver side rear, and then the passenger side front and driver side front. I'll probably split this up into two separate videos, otherwise it might be too long. As always, safeties are concerned, so we're going to jack it up, put it on jack stands before we start doing anything. So here's this thing jacked up on two jack stands, one under the frame, one under the axle. We're gonna have to remove this caliper and this hose. This is the one that I think is really bad, this hose. But I'm gonna replace all four, just because if one is bad, then the rest might be bad too. So to take this thing out, and if we don't have enough light, I'll get some light in here and I'll show you what we need to do to take this thing out. Just to preface, I am not a mechanic, and this is all just as a hobby for me. So if you're gonna do this, do it at your own risk. It's best to always take it to a pro, but I like doing this stuff, so I'm going to do it myself. You don't do it because I do it. Do it because you feel safe and that you feel like you know what you're doing. So I put a little bit of light back here so we could see what we need to do. We need to remove this hose, remove this clip, take this banjo bolt out. I'll get the hose out. Behind these two, there are two slider bolts that we could take off to make this caliper come out easier. But since we're just going to replace the entire thing, no sense in taking just these out. I'll just go ahead and take the two big bolts out, one here and one on the underside, and take the entire caliper and hose and everything out all in one go. This hose is held in by a 3/8 inch knot, and these are 18 millimeter. I don't think I could get an 18 millimeter in here with this hose here, so I either have to remove the banjo and take the hose off first, or just go ahead and remove this. So I'm just going to remove the hose, pull the clip, take the hose out, and undo these. I don't think my air tool could get in here to get this out, so I'm going to break it by hand and then drive it out with the air tool. So I didn't soak these with any sort of penetrating fluid, so let's see if it comes out relatively easy. Yeah, it's coming out easy. And this should leak brake fluid when it's out. So I put this little bowl down below to catch any. Since I'm gonna bleed this thing, it doesn't really matter if it bleeds out or not. I just don't want it on the floor. And it's a good idea to have a whole bunch of rags just in case too. Okay, I'm gonna try to pull this clip out here. It's probably frozen in place. Okay, not too bad. Here it is. Clip out. This hose out. Now we could take these two 18 mil bolts out of the way. So the torque specs on these are about 75 foot-pounds. So this is going to be terrible to break. I'm going to try my darnest to break it by hand and then run it out with the air tool. Alright, bearing is broken. Let's try the other one. This might get a little bit loud. Okay, bolts out, this caliper, and everything should lift off. For this Jeep having 120,000 miles on it, the pads are still good, calipers look alright. We're gonna just go ahead and replace all of this. Since we're gonna replace the rotors too, we gotta take the rotors out now. Normally these things have, and I know the camera's not pointing at it, but they have a little clip on the front of the rotor that holds it onto the hub. This one doesn't have it. The brakes are binding a little bit on it, so we're gonna tap it a little bit with a hammer. This thing is rusted on good and proper. I'm gonna just try some liquid wrench on it. See if that penetrates in there. Let's sit up for a few minutes. Let's see if that penetrates in there. All this is setting up. We could go ahead and prepare the caliper with the pads and all that. Since we're just going to be replacing everything, we could probably just go ahead and put it on, put it all the way over, just like we did, just like we took this one off. Just get it set up all as one, since it's not too bulky to maneuver by hand. This is the old caliper with the brake pads in. It's a new caliper. If you could see this could slide in and out, right? And we don't need to take it all the way apart to put the pads in. You can see the pads are actually pretty good. They look pretty good. These are stock replacements from rockauto.com. New caliper, new pads, new spring. These are washers here for the banjo and the hose. We're not going to go ahead and put the hose on yet. We're going to wait until we have this on the vehicle. But what we could do is just go ahead and pre-mount this. And it comes with a little bit of grease. And the grease really prevents the squeal that you might normally have. So we're going to put a little bit inside the piston here. And a little bit on the outside. Each pad where it rubs up against the caliper here. So I'm going to take my gloves off to do this. You could slide this out. You could do this a couple of ways, right? You could slide this out and then slide this in. You could see like so, right? Then we just go ahead and slide that in like so. All right, and then the same thing on this side. We're going to go ahead and pop this in like so. We'll give us all a little bit of room to work here. And we want to give us. Alright, so here they are. Just like how they're in this thing here. Alright, for the most part. Just a quick way to check that this could just fit over the rotor when you put it in. If you just take the rotor and slide it in, it'll fit right in, so you could just turn this right over. So no need to take the caliper fully apart. As I mentioned earlier, safety is of the utmost importance, right? This little spring here could fly away and hit you. We need to go ahead and mount that spring just as it is here. It's pretty stiff. I've seen some people use pliers to put it in. See if we could just pry this down somehow and pull it to the side. That's all we really need, just it being pulled to the side a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe if we do like so. Almost in. Okay, so we get that. Maybe. So after a lot of maneuvering and using a pair of these to grip a hold of the spring and pry it in, is finally in. I'm just going to tap them in, make sure they're good, and then we're going to go see if we could pop the rotor out. So I didn't catch this part on camera, but I had to put a little bit of pressure behind the rotor with a pry bar and just whack it, and it came right off. So with this rotor out of the way, all I had to do was put a pry bar behind here, pry, and whack this really hard with a hammer, and it just popped right out. While I have this out, I'm just gonna make sure there's no flaky rust behind here. The parking brake shoes all look good. We're just going to take this new rotor and put them in place. Just going to slide the caliper assembly over it. And just run these bolts up. They go down to 75 foot-pounds. And since we didn't disassemble the caliper, we should be good. I'm just going to use my air tool to run this up, and then then we'll torque it down with a torque wrench. Okay, so I have this thing set to 75 foot-pounds. See if I could get a little bit more leverage if I do this way. $75. And now for the bottom one. Alright, that's torque down. 75 foot-pounds. What we could do here is just make sure these slide pins are actually torqued down to spec. They should be 25 foot-pounds. So we just go ahead and just verify that they are torqued down to the spec that they need to be. Especially since we didn't take the caliper apart in the first place. Then we're going to go ahead and replace the hose. Torque down. Let's just do the other one too. This banjo is a 14 mil torque down to 23 foot-pounds. Make sure you use the new bronze or copper washers, whatever they are, and just make sure you torque it down to 23 foot-pounds, not too much more. Let's see if we can get this torque wrench in here. There we go, 23 foot-pounds. We're going to hook this hose back up now. A little bit of fluid's going to come out. Just remember it's a 3/8 knot. We're just going to hook that up and clip it back down, and then we're going to bleed it. Notice that the bleeder is on the top. When you're putting this little clip back in, make sure you put it in so it adds a little bit of tension to this thing. Even though it's in there nice, because this new hose came with a clip that puts a little bit of tension on it too, you want to make sure you put this thing in like so it adds a little bit of tension to this. To bleed this, we're just going to pop the little rubber cap off of this. This bleeder is also a 3/8 inch bolt. We're just going to loosen that, put our hose. We're going to hook it up to the pneumatic bleeder. Alright, so this is nice and clean now. It's bled out. And all we got to do is mount the wheel and tie it back on. Don't forget to cap your bleeder back off. And move on to the other side. So now we're on to the front passenger side. We've done the rear. The front's a little bit different from the back. It has bigger calipers, the 2-piston calipers versus a single piston, and the brake line goes up under here and goes up under the vehicle alongside the frame. So I'm not going to stick my head up under there. So after looking at this setup here, I think I'm going to leave the brake line in place and just replace the rotor and the caliper and pads. This thing's been on here for 20 years, so let's go ahead and replace these. I can't show you the back here, but I'm going to use this 14 mil wrench to take the hose off. You see, this thing's just going drip, 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 drip gravity. If I could stop it from dripping, it's just a little clamp with 2 little plastic pieces. I'm just going to put it on either side of this like so and clamp it down. See if that'll stop it. Yeah, that stops it from dripping. So it just don't drip all the time. One's up, you can see the caliper moving already. And the rotor just comes out. 20 years old, doesn't look so bad. Alright, so here's the brand new rotor. Looks much better on the old one. Let's go ahead and put the caliper together. We could try to put the caliper on as one whole piece. Let's see how difficult that is before I take it apart and try to put it on that way. So this caliper is huge when compared to the ones in the rear. And it's not undoable to put it all together on the bench and then put it on the rotor. It'll just be a little bit heavy to maneuver, but that'll save us from having to tighten these down. We just had to torque them down when we have them bolted on to the knuckle. So let's go ahead and mount the brake pads in there. All right, here's the caliper, fully assembled. Bleed up on top, and an 18 mil knuckle bolt. Might take a little bit of fidgeting to get this in place. There we go. Now let's go ahead and reconnect this hose. Okay. There we go. Alright, now the only thing left to do is to bleed this. Bleeding's done. We're just going to go ahead and do the driver's side. Once that's finished, we're going to take it for a test drive.